Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk a little bit about how I created cable cars and Cadillacs. I did the ground layer already, as you can see. I washed on a variety of colors and I wasn't happy with the way it was going. I wanted a little more contrast. So I grabbed one of my favorite colors of all time, which is Prussian Blue. And I started just washing it on wherever I felt that I wanted to use it. I like to use water occasionally for these drip paintings, and so I spread the painting on using that, I think it's about a 12-inch artist palette knife, which is my favorite tool, and I do most of my groundwork with the palette knife, and then after the painting is dry I'll go in with a variety of brush sizes. But anyway, here I am spreading the Prussian Blue on, and it's very intuitive. I just kind of place it where I think I need it. Here you see me backing up to check out what I think is needed. After I spatula on the color, you can see that I'll go back in with the edge of the knife and I'll pull down through that first, the top layer of paint, and I'm getting the underneath layer showing through. So that's always exciting because you don't know what you're going to get. Suddenly I was moved to pull across the painting. So it's not always an up and down movement. Sometimes it's a long horizontal movement. And then once again, I felt like just spread that around a little bit. And that was me stepping back to look at the work and kind of get a feel, like a vibe of where it's going. At this point, I have no idea, just playing with spreading paint on this big canvas. Big canvases are my favorite. They give you a lot of room to move around and use that large palette knife. When I work on smaller paintings, I'm a little more constricted, and of course I'll choose a different palette knife size for smaller ones. I'll be posting some videos of how I work on smaller paintings. Oh, look at that beautiful color. When the Prussian Blue washes over the yellow, it's a stunning, sort of like a sea green. Ugh, I love that. Usually when I love something, I'll preface it with ugh. I don't know why. I should be saying yum. Oh, yum. So you can always go back and break up a section. In this case, there was a little splotch of blue that was just a little heavy, I thought. Spritz a little more water. My walls are covered with, what's that paper called? It's paper on the front, it's plastic on the back. I guess it's a drop cloth. I got it out of the paint department, the big box stores. Checking for balance for me is very important, to flip the canvas. Luckily, I can still manage at this later state in life to flip it on my own. Yeah, so asking for a little more drip, I think, is what the painting's asking for. And we'll see what pops up underneath as this goes along. That wash is my kind of my signature move, taking that acrylic and wetting it and then washing it down using the spatula. Always wipe the spatula in between if you're going to try working with palette knives. I'm calling it a spatula because it kind of looks like a cake baking spatula to me, but it's really a palette knife. Anyway, always wipe in between, make it nice and dry. See, there's still a lot of wet on the canvas that you can pull down to get that wash look, and that's what I like. That way there's a lot of translucency between the layers. When I first started painting, I did a lot of that. I think it's called impasta painting. Maybe it's because I like pasta. But anyway, where you lay it on really thick, and that's kind of a cool effect as well. But as the years went by, I found my touch was getting lighter and lighter, and yeah, I kind of dug that. So, this painting could almost be done at this point, but no. No. If you follow me, I have a hard time stopping. A hard time with restraint. Dang it. What if I just did this? Would that help? Or what if how about over here? Yeah. And then, of course, the painting changes, and you start to ask yourself, did I improve the painting, or did I just change it? And many times the answer is no, you just made a different painting. So, still dealing with restraint. I've been painting professionally since, I think it was about the year 2000. I've been painting all my life, but it was only after I had my family and raised my family and had a chance for time to myself that I returned to painting. And I must say I had the full support of my family, and especially my husband. In fact, he purchased my first easel for me so that I would, have a proper tool. And I just started right in the kitchen. That was my preferred place to paint. It was a big space, and quite frankly, I could, get the noodles on and start peeling potatoes with clean hands, mind you, in between laying down layers of paint. And I have two sons. They were small at the time, still, enjoying PBS shows, and so they'd be engaged with those kinds of television shows, and I'd be painting, and it was a nice life. Now they're grown and gone, and still painting. But I have a dedicated workspace now. This room that I work in is actually our guest bedroom, I guess you'd say it, or spare bedroom. And my husband Ken, helped me to cover all the walls, from the very ceiling to the very floor, with this drop cloth material. And thank God, because you can see the phenomenal amount of washed out paint that is residing behind the wall. Anyway, here I am. It's good in between. Some of the layers that are mostly dry can then be spritzed and then wiped with, in this case I'm using a paper towel, maybe a kitchen sponge, it could be a palette knife, it could be a wet brush, but in this case I'm using a paper towel, slightly damp, not bone dry. You need to have it to be more fluid so that it can cascade across the paint, the layer of paint, otherwise it'll kind of, get caught. So it has to be a little damp so that you can rub through. And then it starts to reveal some of the under layers. That's a fascinating part of the art. Once again, you never know how it's going to go. I don't have a picture that I'm referring to. I just start spreading the paint. That's where my joy is. And I'm very grateful that people enjoy it themselves. And in some cases, they like to purchase it, hang it in their home, and they have a little bit of me, and I know where that painting is. It's kind of cool. If you're interested in purchasing art from me or any other artists on Instagram, there's usually a card on their website where you can go and purchase. Right now, I just purchase direct from my collectors. You just email me, say, I like that piece. How much is it? What's the size? Can you show me more angles? I'm happy to take more pictures. It's a process, but I like it because I feel connected to people that are purchasing my art. It's not just a cart, that's important too. And I'm going to have to go ahead and go that route eventually, I'm sure, because more and more people, here I am. Well, look at that. Bold, white splotches using that big palette knife. Good Lord, what am I thinking? Who knows? I suddenly felt it. Now, I'm not going to leave that thick layer of white. I'm going to go back in, as you can see, put a little bit of spritz water and start pulling down. All of those kind of sharp-edged lines will be softened either by the wet paper towel, like I said, or a brush. I think I use a paper towel. Oh, in this case I use a very large, that looks like 3-4 inch artist brush, and it has water on it as well. So when I pull up and down, it starts to, as you can see, blend, and that was what I was looking for. That is something I look for, is more of a blendy look to my work. Lately I've been trying to put a little bit more of a square edge on top, but in this case I've got more of the blendy drips. Again, a signature mark that I use. Also, when people talk about marks on canvas, I always wondered, oh, maybe I should be doing marks on canvas. But then I realized I do marks on canvas. It's just, it's a different way of marking. I don't use a variety of tools, mostly acrylic art, acrylic paint and a brush. But I use the edge of my palette knife to scratch in some marks. So a little more water, because it must have looked to me like the white paint was a little too much of a sharp edge, and I wanted it to blend more, so going back in with blending. This will be pretty close to the finished piece. I'll have the finished one up on Instagram, which is really where I live. I live on Instagram. I don't live on Facebook. I just started using Twitter, but I'm on Instagram because that's where most people have found me in the past, and it's a dang complicated, busy job to get online, and I just would rather be painting. That's really where I want to be. In fact, I enjoy painting so much that I'm going to have a sale one of these days or something, because although I'm very pleased with my art sales, there's still too many canvases. There's too many canvases. Don't know what to do about that. By the way, I often will remove some of the canvases that didn't work. You can either paint over them, or if you've painted over them so many times, which is my case, sometimes I have to take the canvas off completely, discard it, and I continue to use the stretcher bars, which is that wooden frame around the back that holds the canvas. I'll reuse the stretcher bars. I'll cut some new canvas, and I will staple that onto the stretcher bars, so there's no waste except for the canvas. Canvas actually is not very expensive. It's the stretcher bars that will set you back. So I never discard my stretcher bars. I always reuse them, unless they're low quality canvases that I purchased for studies or for practice. Those ones are sometimes flimsy and you can't save them, so they get tossed. I always like to break up large splotches of color, and I use a washed or watered down pigment. In this case it's white, and I think that's a 1-inch flat brush that I'm using. Another one of my very favorite tools. I like to see that drip. Oh, isn't that luscious? I want to spend my time watching drips. I think there's something the matter with me. Anyway, that wasn't enough. I felt like I needed to add a few more. Later on, if you check out my Instagram post for Cable Cars and Cadillacs, you'll see that it did. I think I end up washing that whole top blue section that I'm working on. I think I end up covering it all together. But I'm having so much fun here, I can tell. I'm just stuck on that corner right now. Here we go again. As for the edges, you saw me just go across the top with the white flat brush, with white paint on it. I typically paint my edges black. I think it makes them look rich. So what you saw me do a second ago was just basically wipe off excess paint. You don't want a bunch of paint drying on your edges, and then you get a really, I mean, sometimes it happens and it can be cool, but as a rule, you're going to get a really thick layer of built-up old paint. I'm kind of liking that. Maybe I should have stopped there. Anyway, because that's not going to happen. So I like to wipe the edges. It keeps them kind of flat. When I go to paint the black edge, with the finished black paint along the edge, it's a nice flat canvas there. It's not too full of them. So you just saw me splatter. If you ever see splits and splatters on my work, it's using that wet brush. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that. Anyway, there's no undo when you're painting. If you're used to working in Procreate, if you're a creator, used to working in Procreate, that's a great app, but you can undo, and so it's a little more relaxing. But when you're painting, sorry, no undo button. It can be what Bob Ross calls a happy accident, or it can be one of those, gosh darn, I wish I wouldn't have done that, but oh well. And then you just proceed. Yeah, see, I'm not crazy for that corner. I keep going back to it. And all I'm doing there is pulling down some of the water that is still remaining. And, yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's the start of washing it out. How do you know when a painting is finished? My first test is, would I hang it? That is really my first test. Would I hang it? And if I go, I don't like this section here, or I don't like that color there, then I'll change it. Then I'll know the painting's not finished. And your eye will go to a section that you don't like, or that you love, conversely. So basically you really have to trust the process. How do you get to trust the process? You have to paint. People say, oh, you have amazing energy. How do you create? I don't know. I don't think about it too much. And I know that some of my paintings are just not going to work. I go in saying, who knows? Who knows what today will bring? And I just go at it. It is definitely an addiction for me, I will tell you, and my family knows, because I keep trying to slow down on the creation process and, maybe go do something else. Guess what? I'm still thinking about that particular painting or the next particular painting or what size I want to do next. So you got to know there's an element of, you're hooked on it. Because you never know what you're going to get. I think, that's the way I cook too. I'll follow a recipe in the sense of I'll see what the ingredients are. How do I make this product? Oh, I'll need this, this, and this. And then I don't want to look at the recipe anymore. I want to play with what I think the flavors will be in my mind. And that's how I paint. That's actually how I do everything. I never know. And when my husband and I travel in our RV van, our road trek, as many of you know, we call it our Van Go. We don't know where we're going either. We have a basic idea. We might want to stop and see some friends or relatives. But for the most part, we're just tooting it along. So this is back to using a slightly damp paper towel. I actually use Bounty because I like that they truly are thick. And the less expensive ones are very thin, and they just basically dissolve. These Bounty ones will last and last, and I'll use them over and over because they're not dirty. They just got paint on them. So we're getting near the end now. I hope you enjoyed my babbling and watching my process. I probably should have warned you to grab a cup of coffee in the very beginning, but anyway. Maybe you stopped it and were smart enough to get a cup of coffee or tea or a drink of some kind. But this is the end, and I will end up changing it again. I don't have a video of it, but you can see it on my Instagram account. I think it's Jude_Remedios. But you can search me up on Instagram. It should come up. So thank you for watching. I hope you will subscribe. It'd be awesome if I could drive up my subscribers. And like it, and of course commenting is very important. Tell me what you did or did not like, and what else you'd like to see me do. And we can have kind of a social interaction online. We'll see you next time. Thanks.